at the time, I was like, there's no way that I have ADHD because I have no problem focusing on things that are interesting to me. And so in my mind, I thought that ADHD meant you couldn't focus on anything at all. I had no idea about hyperfocus. And so for me, I was like, when I'm interested in something, I am focused like 1,000% in on this thing. And then later I had a conversation with my buddy Brandon and he's like, yeah, that's hyperfocus. That's ADHD.
Motivation can be a tricky thing for us ADHDers. That's why today we're joined by Jesse J. Anderson, author of Extra Focus and an adult ADHD advocate for over 60,000 newsletter subscribers. Jesse today on our show reveals why traditional productivity advice often fails us and instead introduces the revolutionary 4 C's that actually work for our ADHD brains. You're going to discover the difference between neurotypical motivation and our interest-based nervous system. Plus, we dive into Jesse's late diagnosis at 36 years old and how he transformed shame into understanding. If you've ever felt disenfranchised or broken by failed productivity systems, this episode is about to change everything. Let's get into it with Jesse J. Anderson. But first, breathe. You've got this. You'd hold the book back up again and show us how thin it is. And we were talking about,
Extra Focus. This is Jesse's book. And I was just saying, I really appreciated how it's thin and it's digestible. And he formats it in such a way that it appeals to the ADHD brain, right? You can get through it really fast. And it has, it's not like dense blocks of text. It actually has a lot of pictures. So I really appreciated going through it and it made it a breeze to go through this book. And I even thought I was going to show one picture that I really liked. This is probably my favorite picture here.
The juggling chainsaws.
Yeah, the chainsaws.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you saying that. Like, I specifically self-published the book because I knew that if I went to a publisher, they would want to make it a huge, like 250 plus page book. And I know most people with ADHD are not going to read a book like that. I'm really good at reading the first 30% and dropping off. And so I really wanted people reading my book, Extra Focus, to just feel like they were pulled from page to page because it was so easy to read. It was like short paragraphs, short chapters, and less than, I think it's like 130 pages, something like that. And very much like I remember reading before when I first got my diagnosis and reading books. And there was like one book I was trying to read, a paragraph it was just a wall of text, the entire page. And then I was on that page for, half an hour rereading because I couldn't get to the next like white space. And then I flipped the page and that wall just like continued. So I was like, my book is not going to be like that. I'm going to make it as easy as possible so that if somebody starts reading, it's really easy to continue reading and get to all the good stuff in there, the strategies and everything else.
Nice.
Yeah. I really recommend this for anyone who is newly diagnosed or someone that wants to just get a great quick starter, filled with awesome strategies, a guide to ADHD. Like this is perfect for that. So definitely pick up a copy of this.
Oh, and Aaron, a compliment that I don't think that we were prepared to give, but it's definitely deserving. The color. The choice of the color. Aaron and I talked about at the conference. We could see the book from miles away. You know what I mean? Like I could identify it across a conference hall, and it was a very cool choice. And did you mean to do so around the same time that they were sort of? It's somewhat arbitrary, but the nation has like a national ADHD month now, which is October, and the color is apparently orange. Did any of those things influence some of the design and the choices?
So the whole like official color of ADHD being orange or whatever, completely by accident. I had no idea that was a thing when I was making the book. I just really wanted it to like jump out. And it was the sort of thing where I knew like a publisher wouldn't do a bright orange book. They would want it to sit and like match the other types of book in that genre, which are all going to be probably a white cover with dark letters and then maybe some sort of illustration. And so I really wanted a design that really popped and really like stood out. I think it was a little while after the book came out, just like a couple months or something, was when I first heard people saying like, oh yeah, like orange is the official ADHD color or whatever.
Whoa,
I was like, well, that's cool.
Kismet.
That just lined up.
Honestly, ditto. Attention different, kind of similar, same, but different. We chose our color scheme, and then we all found out and sort of looked around and kumbaya'd like, well, that's cool.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Unintentional, but.
What did Bob Ross call it? A happy accident.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a happy accident. So David has given us an intro, and I am going to read that out, and then we'll get into the meat of this. So without further ado, here is Jesse J. Anderson. First of all, my name is Steven. This is my co-host,
Aaron Smith.
And this is the Attention Different podcast. We have today one of the homies. This is one of our closest. This is a guy who's kind of campaigning on the same philosophies and beliefs that we are with regards to neurodiversity and radical acceptance and ADHD. And we're so delighted to have him here. It feels like finally we get to have our roundtable talk. So here's Jesse J. Anderson. Jesse J. Anderson is a writer, speaker, and ADHD advocate, also the author of Extra Focus, the Quick Start Guide to Adult ADHD. Diagnosed at 36, Jesse writes about his insights and experiences in his weekly Extra Focus newsletter, which reaches over 60,000 readers. Woo! Jesse, welcome to Attention Different, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I'm glad we're finally doing this. Aaron and I were just talking last week, and I was saying, like, we should do, like, a podcast. Wait, were we going to do one? And he was like, yeah, we have one scheduled in like 5 days. So this is perfect. I'm really glad we're doing this.
This is what those conferences are for. It's just to get, it's all just for us internally to remember what we scheduled with each other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of great collaboration that happens in these spaces. So we just got back from the Neurodiversion 2025 conference, and it was just a blast getting to hang out with everyone there and build a community and have everyone, I think, just feels so boosted in our energy by being around all the neurodiverse brains and just wonderful people that come through at these conferences. And I know I'm just like still buzzing from it. How are you feeling, Jesse?
Yeah. So first, Neurodiversion was incredible. Chris Gillibo really led that up, and that was kind of his brainchild. And it's been it's so cool to see it happen, because I remember talking with him when he was just sort of first starting to think, maybe I could do this sort of conference. What do you think? And so I was kind of in their early days hearing about some of his ideas, and it's so cool to see it like really happen. And yeah, getting to see all like kind of my ADHD friends that I mostly know online, getting to see everyone in person. There's something just really incredible about that. I remember meeting a lot of these people for the first time, including you guys at one of the Chad ADHD conferences a few years ago. I think it was about 3 years ago now.
Dallas? I think it was a Dallas one.
Dallas.
Texas.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd met like anyone in person really from like the ADHD community. And that was cool. Yeah, it was incredible, because it was like pretty quickly I ran into like several of the people I knew really well online, like Trina Haynes, Ron Cababo, Meredith Carter, a bunch of Danny Donovan, like a bunch of these people. And then hanging out in person was like, we quickly realized like, oh, we can take the mask off. Like we can just totally be ourselves and not feel like we have to apologize when we're like interrupting each other or whatever it is. We could just totally be ourselves. And it was, that was one of the best weekends of my life. And then this last weekend, similar. Yeah. It's just like, again, like, I get fueled by hanging out with all my ADHD friends in person. So yeah, it was incredible.
It really felt like the last night, there's an ego for you. I left early, but my last night was, we were at the Austin, a shout out to the Austin Garden and that place that we were hanging out. Yeah, we stumbled and arrived at, right? Very much by accident, aiming for another place, found this place, and it much more suited our needs, which were 15 plus ADHD adults trying to, capture this energy and the spirit of the conference. And I I think it was this neurodiversion conference that I really feel what I will call a cohort forming, right? Because I think those of us who go to these conferences, we see the different generations of advocates.
Right.
And I feel very much amongst a jury of my peers, my contemporaries. And this cohort's been forming arguably since we were little babies in our 20s over a decade ago, first discovering, often for many of us, first discovering our diagnosis in that 20s, early 30s kind of stage, right? But over the last decade, we've all been percolating. We've all been, materializing into this group. And I think I finally saw it for what it was. And I can't wait to keep traveling around these conferences and various retreats and finding a million excuses to get together and keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very much the same. It really feels like we've got this amazing cohesive group, and it's so fun just like hearing all the different things people are doing and then like sharing ideas and like figuring out like future collaborations and all that. And it's just such a supportive community because we get it. We've been there. We understand the struggle. I remember, again, back to that like Dallas conference, we had, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing, but I mentioned Meredith Carter, who was one of the people I met there for the first time, who's like Hummingbird ADHD online. But someone in the group, I can't remember who first did it, was like, oh, I forgot business cards. But then they went to like like a Kinko's or something in the hotel and got some printed. And so Meredith went to do the same thing. And she came back and she's like, guys, something happened. And she showed us her business card, which was a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It filled the entire page. So she printed out like 100 like giant business cards. And it was the best ever. We were dying laughing because we all knew any one of us could do it. Like it wasn't like, oh, we're laughing, Meredith, you made this mistake. We were all just like, that is
laughing with her.
Yeah, exactly. Laughing with her because we were like, that is 100% something any one of us in this group would have done. And now it's become this like thing. I think Trina almost got T-shirts made with like her giant business card. Oh my God. It's been sort of like a big
Was
joke.
it on the cardstock of a business card? Like it was the texture of a business card, but big, or it came out as letterhead?
Yeah, I think it actually did come out just on like kind of, normal paper, but I still have it somewhere.
Okay. Who is the neurodivergent printer? Right. I don't know why I'm assuming this, but I'm like,
who went with it?
Yeah. Who is just like, oh yeah, okay. It looks like a business card, but obviously they wanted to print it on a full cardstock sheet of paper. Let's just run this, guys. Let's run this.
To Aaron's point, to print one of those, it's like a proof of concept, right? It's a proof.
Right.
But to print 100 of them and to assume this is what they wanted.
Obviously.
They wanted a 100 times the size business card. This is what they wanted.
These are for the giants at the ADHD conference, right?
Right. He was probably just like, I don't know, all these ADHD people keep coming in here and printing weird things. Maybe this person actually does want a giant business card. Who knows?
You know what the other side of the coin though is, because like jumping in already and analyzing what is that hypervigilance melting away, the masking melting away, the not feeling the shame, the like feeling the I want to add another layer to it. Think of all the potential out in the real world.
Right.
There's embarrassment, shame, being mortified, being upset, being concerned, the expense, like I paid for this, I'm gonna have to trash this, and just, like the financial loss. Like there are so many reasons we would walk into that situation, not even tell anyone because it's too embarrassing. Maybe hide it in your trunk of your car, right? Yeah. But she comes out and brandishes it because I think there's another layer here. It's also really fucking funny. Like it's really funny. Like to our group, it also has a social currency benefit. Like it's something that we because it's embedded that we're not going to shame that person for it. There is a capital K known fact that that person's not going to get grief for this. They're going to get praise, like high fives for it. It's a total inversion. Like people are going to, oh dude, #classic, high five, right? Or pound it, or like, oh my God, and start swiping through their phone and be like, I did the same thing 6 months ago.
Right.
It's actually, it turns it into social currency. So it turns a mistake into fuel, into a gift in a weird way.
And if the listeners out there are considering going to one of these conferences, like the International ADHD Conference, this year is happening in November.
Kansas City, I believe, right?
In Kansas City.
Yep. And look for Neurodiversion 2026 when that gets announced. So yeah, if you're looking to find community, if you're feeling alone, like you're the only one, you're struggling alone, which is, I think, a lot of people's experience. They're just, oh, this is me. I'm I'm making these mistakes, or I'm having such a hard time adulting in my life. And it's, I don't think I'm not seeing anyone else dealing with this kind of stuff. These places will provide for you a community, a connectedness, a sense of belonging that you won't receive anywhere else. And you'll be able to finally let down that mask. So please
100%.
join us at one of these conferences. And we'll give you a hug too. You'll come up to us.
Yeah,
you'll
come
see
through.
us.
Very inviting group of people for sure.
A shockingly really positive, inviting group of people,
This is a good place to pivot. Let's go back to, so you, Jesse, you were diagnosed at 36 later in life. What was this journey like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll go back a little bit to the beginning. So growing up, I kind of always knew something was wrong, like something was different, and there was just kind of no label for it. Just going through school, in elementary school, I got in fights all the time, which I think a lot of people who know me now are kind of surprised because I don't really seem the type, but I got in fist fights just like nonstop all through elementary school.
You were a brawler.
I would get picked on.
Yeah, wait, fist fights?
Oh yeah, I've dove over tables to tackle kids, and it was like gotten in a lot of fights as a kid. And part of it was
it was defensive though. Like you're saying, when people were picking on you or picking on someone that you knew.
Yeah, it was. So it was like kind of that justice sensitivity. One, I was weird, and so I'd get picked on. Or two, a friend of mine would get picked on, and I was like, "Well, that ain't cool." So I guess I'm attacking this kid now because no one picks on my friends, and so I got into a lot of fights.
You even say that now. You even say that now with some heat. Did you hear that, Aaron? No one picks on my friends.
I can relate hardcore to that.
Aaron can relate hardcore.
That was me.
Really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember like getting so mad that this guy picked on my friend her name was Samin, and she was Muslim American and kind of like stood out a little bit, but we were great friends. We always hung out. We were together on the playground, and this guy picked on her. And I remember I got so mad that I spun him around and like I just kept spinning him like on the concrete, and he got holes in his jeans because I had like spun him around, and then I just threw him to the side. It was just in this ADHD, like rage of defending someone. Yeah.
Wait, this is a thing that I learned about at ADDCA, right? Like I had witnessed it before, but man, Aaron's spinning people on the ground so far that the sparks are flying from the pants. But I thought it was exclusive to, and this is so naive of me and younger of me, right? But I thought that it had, again, this was early days when I thought there was much more of a yin yang in gender, right? Like male and female. And I've come a long way from that to more divine feminine, divine masculine. But that white rage thing, that's like a well-researched, we kind of blank out, right? Like you would get into this, we call it a justice rage, we can call it a defense rage, but Aaron, the way you describe it, you lost yourself a bit.
Yeah. Like we get flooded with emotions, right? So it's that emotional regulation. So, all right. So back to your story, Jesse.
So I used to get in fights. I'm old enough that for the first couple of years when I did that, when I'd get sent to the principal's office, and he had the giant wooden paddle on the wall that he used a few times. So luckily we aged out of that, where they stopped doing that.
Oh, just violence begets more violence.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you're violent. Well, let's be violent right back. Great. But the other thing, so outside of the fights that I used to get into a lot of, I also just I did really good up until about third or fourth grade, because I was like, the teachers could see that I was a smart kid. And so I would figure stuff out really quickly. And the problem was probably about third or fourth grade, I would get bored really quickly because I'm like, I know all this. What are we doing here? And then I just stopped doing homework. I lucked out in that I was really good at taking tests. So I aced every test I ever took all the way through high school. And I never prepared. Something about my brain worked in that it absorbed that knowledge. And then the test felt like a fun puzzle where I was trying to solve the puzzle. And that just came really naturally for me. But unfortunately, at least where I went to school, the grades or homework counted for 40% of your grade. So I ended up with D's in a lot of my classes. Even though I was getting an 100% A+ on every quiz, every test I took, I would get D's in classes. In the 7th grade, they pushed me up to the 8th grade math class. And I didn't do any homework, so I failed out. And then in 8th grade, I was in the same exact class, failed out again. And then in 9th grade, still in that same 8th grade math class. And then finally at that point, I got a teacher that, everyone's got like that one teacher that she saw and she got it. And so she was like, hey, as long as you keep getting like an A, like even an A-, as long as you're getting that upper grade on your tests, I don't care what you do in my class. In fact, I've got all these fun math puzzle sort of things that you can do instead. And so she gave me all these like creative math problems, which I loved. And it was like this teacher, Miss Mike, like shout out to Miss Miking. She freaking got it and made me felt seen.
We should get these teachers' names tattooed on our bodies.
Was this the person you thanked in the book? I remember you had.
Yes, yeah.
You acknowledged someone.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thanked her in the book because she was really in those years, kind of like 9th, 10th, 11th grade. Like she was that one teacher that really like, because I felt freaking stupid. I'm like acing tests and feeling smart and all this other stuff, but I'm failing classes and I'm having all these teachers blame me for the problem. It's just like, all this, everyone can see that something's wrong with Jesse and no one knows what it is. And so it must be Jesse's fault. It must be Jesse's willful rebellion or whatever the case might be. And so it's all just like dumping on my shoulder. And I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's different about me. So I don't know where else to go. So I'm just like absorbing all of that shame and that guilt and feeling like, what the heck is wrong with me? Why can't I just like, my parents did the best they could. Like no hate for my parents, but they would sit me down in front of my homework and then be like, 2 hours, you're going to sit there and stare at your homework for 2 hours. And that's what I would do. 2 hours later, I'd have nothing done because I just couldn't get myself to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. In like a small T. I don't know about Aaron. I don't know about Aaron, but I do know about Aaron. I know you've shared Aaron. This is checking just so many classic boxes. Just so many boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, shout out to Miss Mike, who made me feel like someone out there can see that this is not me being like rebellious or something. Like someone can see that my intentions are pure. I'm just, it was so frustrating because like through all of it, I just felt like I'm just trying to be a good kid. I'm trying to be a good student. And something about my actions aren't lining up with what everyone else sees a good kid as.
It's not for lack of trying. We get just like, you're lazy or you're stupid or you're all those negative labels. And really, the kid is just trying really hard.
So hard. Exactly. Yeah. I will say like the one saving grace I had, like I had Miss Miking, who was so encouraging. But then I also had in 6th grade, I met my best friend and we both got diagnosed in our 30s, had no idea at the time. But we really sort of just like became best friends and really quickly was like, well, no one else gets us, but we get each other. And that really kind of carried me through getting through school. Huge. So huge to have that person that gets you, kind of like we were talking about the ADHD conference. It was like, I had that one person in my life where even when no one else around me understood, my buddy Brandon, he and I, we got each other. And wait.
Can you give us one little taste? I'm now flashing through all my guys, like all the people in my give us one little taste of a moment between the two of you where you were like, no one else gets this, but this makes us laugh, or this we understand, or this, yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Well, I'll say one story. So we met in 6th grade, like I said, at the very beginning when that class started, we were sitting next to each other. And we had sort of known each other. I think we played like Foursquare or something, when your kids are like, oh, that's a kid that's kind of good at Foursquare. So we were sitting next to each other and immediately just started talking and we're like immediately best friends. And like a week or two later, the teacher rearranges the classroom. I think she specifically did it because she's like, these guys will not stop talking during tests. They're talking
too much.
Yes. Yeah.
Too much fun.
So she split us to the opposite sides of the classroom. And we just kept talking. Like we're whispering to each other across the classroom and she could not get us to stop. And so after that, she put us back together and then never separated us again. She's like, at least they're quiet in this corner.
They're not shouting across the room.
Not disrupting
It's more disruptive to have you split apart. That's funny.
Aaron, could you imagine suddenly paper airplanes and paper balls being thrown? Jesus, just sit them back next to each other.
I don't know why Jesse has this like booming voice. So I'm like imagining the little Jesse with the same booming voice being like, hey, buddy.
Yes.
Are you going to play Foursquare at recess?
Yeah, exactly.
In the middle of a lecture, hey.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would love to have that for lunch. Yeah, the middle. Oh my God, I love that.
It was it was pretty great. And like credit to the teacher for like figuring out like I'm not going to fight this. I'm not going to discipline. Like she pretty quickly is just like they get each other and they're getting work done when they work together. I'm just going to put them together. And so that's another like Mrs. O'Toole. Shout out to Mrs. O'Toole for getting seeing that and not marking it as just a disciplinary problem, but something she could fix by just putting us together. And teachers, man, they got so much power. They can really just like make or break people for life with just like those small amounts of like, let me ignore what the rule book maybe says or whatever it is and do something to like really find this kid's unique need. Really small little extra thing on her part that made a world of difference for us.
So fast forward to later in life, you and Brandon, you guys kind of got diagnosed together in some way or at the same period.
So I had moved away. We're in our 30s. I'd gotten a job down in California. I grew up in Washington. I lived in Washington State most of my life. And then at this time, I had moved down to California for a job. And then we had just moved back. And right as we had moved back to Washington, he had just gotten diagnosed because he and his wife were doing like, I think they were doing like marital counseling or something like that. And then it came out and he got diagnosed with ADHD. And so it was first his wife and my wife who were friends. They were talking about it. And my wife goes to me and she's like, so I'm not going to tell you you have ADHD because that's going to make you not want to look into it at all because you're going to get like, she knew me and knew that I'd get rebellious about it. But she was like, but you should maybe just to know about it better, you should look into it and maybe research it a bit. And at the time, I was like, there's no way that I have ADHD because I have no problem focusing on things that are interesting to me. And so in my mind, I thought that ADHD meant you couldn't focus on anything at all. I had no idea about hyperfocus. And so for me, I was like, when I'm interested in something, I am focused like 1,000% in on this thing. And then later I had a conversation with my buddy Brandon and he's like, yeah, that's hyperfocus. That's ADHD, buddy. So, and I remember like researching symptoms at that time. And another thing that really sort of jumped out, even though it's not necessarily an ADHD symptom, but it was something somebody else had mentioned, and that's like t-shirt tags, like the irritation, the kind of sensory stuff that can happen.
Oh my God, I hate them. I hate them.
I have to rip them out of every single shirt.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the first thing I read where I was like, oh no, this is like a weird thing that I thought was just me. And then the more and more I read, it was just like, oh, this explains freaking everything. What the crap? Yeah. And I'm like, how did nobody else ever say this? It's so like by the book, like I'm reading through the symptoms. I'm like, this is like, has just nobody ever read this before? Because anyone that knew me at all in my life should have been able to like, just say like, oh, you have this thing. And no one ever did. And so, but yeah, it was pretty immediate after that where I was like, oh, I gotta make this label real and like find someone that'll validate, because I've been spending 36 years just thinking I'm, lazy, stupid, selfish, crazy, whatever all those labels are that I've heard. And now there's something that kind of explains it.
It's kind of those external unhelpful scripts that were going on from those teachers and people in authority and folks around you. Tell us kind of like, what were some of those ones that then you were kind of carrying with you and internalizing into adulthood?
Yeah. I mean, a big one, a lot of these, I mean, I don't think are that unique. I've heard now, I've seen a lot of other like report cards and oh my God. Pleasure to have in class, but won't get out of his own way. As a kid, I'm like, cool. How do I fix that? What does that mean? Or like,
wait, how old were you? Actually, wait, hold on. Just milk that for once. How old were you when someone said won't get out of his own way, which is a devastating thing to say?
Right. Fifth grade, something like that. Like it was like late elementary
10
school.
years old.
Right.
10 years old, accusing a 10-year-old of not getting out of their own way. Like they have that's just like such an insane amount of willpower and agency to be given to a 10-year-old.
Totally.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so that was one that stuck with me a lot about my amazing potential. Like people could see my potential, but that I couldn't capitalize it because everything, always turns in assignments late. Too emotional. That was a big one because I had especially in elementary school, that a lot of the fights I got in and things like that were emotional responses to things. Like you said, Aaron, like that emotional flooding Whereas like I would just go from 0 to 1,000 without knowing. All I know is like suddenly everything in me is ready to fight. Like the fists are suddenly clenched, and I just realized I'm already swinging. Like it just like was so fast, where it just really flooded, and I had no idea any of it was happening. So yeah, too emotional. That was a really big one. Later on, then like probably high school is when I started to get called more selfish and like lazy and things like that, because they would start to assign like, okay, there's a problem here. That's where it felt like willful. They started to assign it to my intentions. Like he must have bad intentions because I can see that he's smart or he's doing good at the test. So he must be able to do this other stuff, and not having any idea of that barrier that I was actually pushed up against. So, yeah.
Were you ever told you're like not enough, or made to feel like you're not enough?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I think a lot of that came from the potential thing. It was just
like
it
not
just
trying
felt like
hard enough, like not trying hard enough, not doing enough.
And this continued into like my early careers and stuff, where I would feel that same way. Like I felt like I had to work way more than everybody else, and I was still getting told that I'm not trying, that it doesn't feel like I'm working hard enough, or I'm not giving all of my effort. And so I would do the thing that I think a lot of people do, especially at like an office job, where you can sort of like, it's not like fast food where there's somebody like watching every moment you're doing. So with like an office job, what would happen a lot of times is I'd get, clock in at 8 or 9 o'clock. And then suddenly it'd be like 3 or 4. And I would be like, did I do anything today? I have no idea what today did. Whoa. So I guess I'm going to work till 8 o'clock tonight to try to make up for all this like lost time. And then I would do a ton of work. And then like someone would say like, wow, I can't believe you got all this done. And it's like, yeah, it's because I'm working like 12-hour days because I'm feeling that stress in the afternoon. And maybe I'm doing stuff and I just don't even know it. It was just like,
oh my God, that resonates.
Grasp on my time. And like in the memory was just like so quickly fleeting. I was just like floating through the day, always feeling like I'm not doing enough. I got to do more. I'm going to get fired. I don't know what's happening, and all of that going on.
This is how it manifests in adulthood, right? Like as a kid, you're told these things. And then later on, as adults, we overcompensate. We stay late into the office. We'll pull an all-nighter to get the project done. Yeah. And it's about time management too. It's about prioritization. It's about procrastination. There's other factors at play, but there's a big piece of this is our mindset and what we're thinking about ourselves in these moments of like, oh, I'm so worried I'm going to get fired, or they're going to be mad at me, or I'm going to disappoint someone, and I have to just overcompensate to get this all done at the 9th hour. Is that kind of like, am I describing that like kind of the way?
Absolutely nailed it. Like, yeah, and it's funny, I said like worried I was going to get fired or whatever, and it wasn't really that. It was more what you said. It was worried that someo's going to be mad at me. Like I'm like, 28, and I'm still like, I don't want him to be mad at me. Like that's my fear. Like, cause I quit like, by the time I was in my late 20s, I probably had quit like 10, 20 jobs by then. Like I've had probably close to 40 jobs by this point, just cause like I would have an emotional flood moment and I'd be like, I guess I'm out today. Or I don't want to talk to my boss after that embarrassing thing happened. So I guess I'm going to go home and never come back.
Right, a one and done lifestyle. Like there's no forgiveness. There's no 2 or 3 strikes. It's like a 1 strike rule that you give yourself.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like I had this self 1 strike rule. Like I've never had a job where I had like
performance plan or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. If I have a conversation with my boss about a performance plan, I quit that day. Like I just know that's not going to work.
To avoid that.
The avoidance of like, because again, like now I know that they're unhappy with what I've done. I just know myself to know like I'm never going to recover from that here. Like it's done. I just got to get out of here and find the next thing. And so I do.
Yeah, what we kind of like to do here is kind of look at this as like, hey, at first we're blaming ourselves because we look at it as like, I'm doing a bad job. I'm a bad employee. I messed up. And yes, we might have made mistakes. We might have been late on the project or whatever, but that's not a reflection of how you are as an employee or how you are as, a competent person. But we take it as like Yeah, like a
Right.
character assassination kind of thing
Yeah.
in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And take it very personally.
I wanted to add just one layer and ask and ping off of Aaron, actually, because forgive me. And this is a forgive me, not just to you, Jesse, but also to like the world of people who are diagnosed later. I was very, very, very lucky to be diagnosed at 10, right? Or whatever it was, not even 7, 6 or 7, right? And I've learned this in hindsight through the work with Aaron and through exposure to the rest of our community. I was reminded just then, while you were talking, about this fact in a new haunting way. The educational community around me, regardless of how many, and I'm going to say it, assholes live amongst them and angels, right? Both live amongst the educational community. Regardless of that, they knew I was ADD at the time. They knew, they had proof, documented proof from the age of like 8 that I had a thing, that they could put all this negativity into that bucket. It doesn't mean that I was free of negativity, but I am only really settling in this understanding while you're talking, because maybe I can see myself reflected in you more just by bias, but like, oh my God, this person didn't have that proof of that existing complex condition, that thing that they could put in the bucket. So it's just shotgun fire at you for like every year of middle school and high school. That stopped for me. Brother, at 5th grade. I didn't get shotgun spread negativity. I got very targeted. Like, is he taking the right amount of medication? Is he taking it on time? Is he eating right? It was so targeted within ADD, the condition, that like, trauma be trauma, but yours sounds much more magnificent and samsaric, like cyclical, like just every single year you would get a shotgun spread of new negativity because they didn't have anywhere to place it other than just on performance, just raw, he's not doing well.
Right.
I did not, before this conversation in earnest, think about that repeat affect on you and how that complex trauma could then show up. And when you're getting diagnosed decades later, 2 decades later.
Like, same thing. I can't relate to your experience because I know it has complete difficulties and complexities that I don't understand. So I definitely don't want to say like mine was harder because I didn't know. Like, there's a whole lot of complexity to it. But I will say, like, what you're kind of unpacking there, that's the thing that really frustrates me when I hear from like people will talk with me, like, hey, how do I get diagnosed? What do I do? And then they'll hear like they'll talk to their doctor and a doctor will say like, well, why do you need a label for this? Or like their parent or friend will say, why do you need a label? And I'm like, because where else is all this going to go if you don't know that there's this thing? Like, it was such a freedom for me to understand because, again, 36 years of where does this go? Because there's clearly something different and I don't understand why. And everyone else sees it as intention. And I sort of know that it's intention, but after 36 years, I'm starting to think maybe it's not. Maybe I just really am selfish and really I am just like lazy or all those things. And so finding out that it was just such a like redeeming thing to know that there is a label for this. And I think there is so much power in having that label and understanding that like there's a thing. And I think the other part of it too is like, it's not just me. Like, I had my buddy Brandon and we sort of understood each other. But that wasn't the same as knowing that there's millions of people that are struggling with this thing. I thought I was just broken somehow. And that my buddy Brandon was also sort of broken in a way where we understood each other. But I didn't know like millions of people are going through this same struggle and having this same sort of thing. And so I think the label of ADHD is such an empowering thing. I'm like, yes, get your label. Like, that will help you really understand. And then it also... for me, gave me something to better understand my brain. Well, now that I have this label about my brain, I can be a further student of my brain and know what the heck to search for. Because now I'm not just like, I don't know, my brain broke, help. Like, what's wrong? Now I can search for like, hey, I'm having this difficulty and I have ADHD. How are those interlinked? And then I can learn about things like, oh, with ADHD, you struggle with perspective memory. And so like when you say, hey, I should grab milk on the way home from work, you're very likely going to forget that while you're driving home from work, because with ADHD, that prospective memory doesn't trigger the same way it does for most people. And so that's why I would have all these great intentions. I'm like, I'm going to do these things. I'm so excited. And then my brain would never remind me about them later when it was time to actually take action. And that's another one of those things that I just labeled on as I must just be lazy or like whatever it is. And finding out that that's a thing with ADHD well, cool. Now that I have that label and I know that that is a difficulty, now instead of just like feeling bad about my willpower or whatever, I can build systems and I can build strategies to like compensate or like lean into what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So yeah, I'm very like, get that label, man. Sorry, kind of went on a rant there.
No, that was beautiful. Oh
Yes.
my God, that was great. Honestly, look, there is later in the show notes, I will personally put an episode of Radio Lab that gets at this, but we're not going to get into it. But the line in it that makes me cry every time, I've listened to it many times, is things have names. And it is when the main character says this, and it's a deaf and mute person who finally learns to talk at 27. And he says things have names, and as he's sobbing, and like the immeasurable power behind things have names spooks me and gives me goosies to this day. Like when we can call it by its name, when we can call something, we begin to overcome the fear of it, because just a little bit of knowledge chips away at fear, right?
And it diffuses and displaces the blame and shame from us. I'm doing this this is my brain. This is my unique brain wiring. Yeah. This is ADHD. Right. And the label, of course, like you talked about in your book, we've talked about it too. It's not that this label is perfect. You know, there's a lot of problems with the label itself, you know, attention deficit disorder.
Oh, the name is terrible.
Yeah. But
not great.
We have a whole episode on that, a lab on that. If you want to see that. But one of the hardest things, I think, as you were talking about kind of perspective memory and stuff, I was thinking to myself, one of the hardest things people struggle with ADHD is getting started, is motivation and task initiation, getting started with things. And can you talk about, because I know in your book you talk about the difference between neurotypical motivation and ADHD motivation. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes,
yeah.
please.
So this is one of the things I think that was most exciting about when I found out, I had ADHD, and then I was listening to every podcast I could and reading everything I could. And there wasn't a ton at the time. I was just like Jessica McCabe had just started her How to ADHD channel. And so there was there was that resource that was kind of friendly to most people, but a lot of it just kind of wasn't. I was absorbing everything I could. But I very distinctly remember hearing an interview with Dr. William Dodson when he first talked about the interest-based nervous system. This was another reason when I was writing my book, I was like, I want to get this part as quickly to people as possible. So I really quickly would get through the other stuff. I was like, I have to set the foundation in the book, and then as quick as possible get to motivation, because that's the part I think that so many of us beat ourselves up for, where it's like, I want to do the thing and I can't do the thing. Why can't I do the thing? Basically, Dodson's idea is that most people, so like neurotypical people, have an importance-based nervous system. So their motivation comes from primarily three things, and that's importance, rewards, and consequences. And you see that everywhere, like any sort of like task management app or like productivity strategy. It's all about like raise the thing that's most important up to the top, and then give yourself rewards and consequences, like if you do the thing or if you don't do the thing. And so much of what we know about kind of productivity is based around those three pieces. Like, how do I know what's important? What reward will I get if I finish it? And what's my consequence if I don't? But for people with ADHD, these really don't motivate us at all. Like rewards, if they're really immediate, sometimes they can be motivating, or at least can help us to repeat a task, because then we have that positive association. But like telling me that I'm going to get like a pot of gold in like 2 weeks if I do the dishes right now, I ain't going to do the dishes. Like it just doesn't give me the motivation. And again, like as a kid, my dad would like give me consequences, and then they would stack up. And so it's like, hey, finish your homework tonight, or you're going to be grounded for tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, you're going to be grounded for the weekend, or you're going to be grounded for a week. You're going to be grounded for a month. And it's like those consequences kept stacking, but the motivation level did not change one iota. Like it did not increase my ability to do the thing at all. So that's the importance-based nervous system. People with ADHD, we have what Dodson calls an interest-based nervous system. And I've sort of rebranded it because I kept forgetting which the pieces are in there. So in the book, I call it the 4 C's of motivation. And those are captivate, create, compete, and complete. And I'll go through those real quick. So captivate is all about things that are interesting. That's, again, that hyperfocus. When I'm hyperfocused on something, it's usually because something about it is interesting. And I have no problem getting stuff done when I'm interested in it. Like there's something exciting about doing a new project that I'm interested in, or hobbies, that I have no problem finding the motivation for that. So captivate is the first one. Create is all about creativity and novelty. That one is huge for people with ADHD. Like when it's creative, I'm much more able to get myself doing the thing, get that motivation going. And the novelty too, like something that's new and fresh. A lot of times I'll start using a new productivity app just because I know that it's new, and I'll be more likely to like get stuff done in sort of that early newness energy. So the third one is compete. And this one's all about like competition and challenges. And this one may vary. Some people kind of challenge will like repel them, but it's kind of like finding that sweet spot where it's just challenging enough that you think you can do it, but it's going to be difficult. And so that's why I love puzzles.
The Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, I think some author calls it the Goldilocks zone. But yeah, very much like finding right in that sweet spot where it reminds me actually back in school where I'd have a teacher that might say like, hey, here's a math problem that no one was able to solve last semester.
Right.
Like, cool. That's the only thing I'm going to be doing this semester is figuring out how to solve that problem, because it's a unique, fun challenge. And then the last one is complete. And that one is all about urgency, deadlines, due dates. That's the like, ignore the project for 4 months, stay up all night the night before because suddenly it's imminently due and that urgency kind of kicks in and that motivates me. So captivate, create, compete, complete. And I go through these daily. I use these all the time because some of the examples I gave there are kind of bigger scale and more obvious. And it's like, that's great, but how do you use that for something that's not going to be interesting or creative or whatever? And it's all about using those to find sort of a unique angle. And it's all about just getting yourself started, because that's all really that task initiation. Like once you get started, then you can really use that momentum and kind of build. Like in the book, I talk about it kind of like a train. Like once it starts moving, it's a lot easier to get it going a little bit faster. It's that initial movement that can be really difficult. So in the book, I talk about like, what about doing the dishes? How can you use this for doing the dishes? And so captivate, create, compete, complete. One thing you can do with captivate, what's something that's interesting? Maybe I'm really into the hobby of like, I don't know, synth music or something like that. Well, maybe I could put on some synth music and listen to that while I do the dishes. Or maybe it's like a podcast that's about the topic I'm interested in, and I save it so that I can only listen to that episode while I'm doing the dishes or household
We love
chores.
a temptation bundle.
Yeah, exactly. And then the same with like, so create, like how can I make putting the dishes away creative? Well, maybe I go through and I unload it by color first. Or maybe I go through the alphabet backwards.
I love that.
And like, oh, Z, Y, like try to find like, oh, S, spoons, put the spoons away. And a lot of these sound silly, but if it works, it freaking works. And a lot of times just that little bit of making it novel is enough for us to put away one dish. And once you put away one dish, like, well, maybe I can do another one and another one. Another thing I do sometimes, if you're watching, like, if you're into sports, and I like watching a lot of sports, I will do like during a commercial break. That's when I go to like, how many dishes can I get put away during these commercials?
Oh, you'll like
make
challenge
it like
yourself.
A challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
So that one's kind of mixing. It's like challenge and it's
and
urgency. Yeah, so that you can kind of like overlap these. But I use these all the time.
I still think that's creative too. Like gamifying anything just comes with creativity, right? Like the embedded.
Right.
So like that would spark I'm speaking selfish, that would spark my creative mind as well. Like the running back and forth. Now I got to think about my strategy. Like how do I quickly get to the sink? Like what's my route? You know what I mean? Like from the living room, it would become 4D chess.
You're kind of like layering all of them together, which is interesting to think about. I was like, because I was thinking the 4 C's like, oh, just like use one or the other and choose one. And now I'm thinking with that one example you just mentioned, I'm like, oh, well, actually you could kind of figure out how many you can layer all together to really push yourself to do this thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's really like, I find that exercise just like in my head, it's captivate, create, compete, complete. It becomes sort of like a creative exercise in itself of like, how can I make this mundane thing a little bit more interesting or a little bit of a challenge or a little bit urgent or whatever it is. And that in itself becomes sort of a creative challenge. I heard that interview with Dodson when he talked about that probably 5 years ago now. And I still daily, I'm thinking of the 4 C's. Just like anytime I'm hitting that resistance, which happens a lot, then I'm coming up with a creative way to solve it. Oh, and I think the other thing to mention, you're not looking for the solution that like, oh, anytime I need to do the dishes, I go to this one strategy. It's like, no, because then it's not going to be novel anymore. It's all about changing it up. And like, if it's working, cool, lean into that. But when it stops, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Like nothing failed. That was just like that strategy had its run, and then you move on and try something else. And that's very much part of the process. And I think that's where a lot of like productivity advice before really used to like beat me up, because people would talk about it. It's like, this is the way to do this thing. And I would try it and then it would fail. And I'm like, cool, well, I'm just broken because this productivity strategy doesn't work for me, or it only worked for 2 weeks and then I failed. Like that's what was the message that I was getting before I kind of discovered this new approach.
I was kind of reading some stuff about like productivity, and there's an author that has like Nest Labs. You probably are aware of her.
Oh yeah.
Anne-Marie Lecomte.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I'm probably not saying her name exactly right because I don't.
Yeah, I don't think I know it either. I said it confidently, but I'm not 100% sure. But she's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but something she talks about, which is really interesting, is like what you can do is frame it as like experimentation and curiosity, and lean into those, which is a way to approach things differently than I think the neurotypical mindset of let's find the one way, the one thing that works, set it and forget it. No, we need that constant spontaneity and change and variety, because that's what stimulates our brain. So if we can conceptualize things in a way that's like, let's experiment, let's try this out. Let's test this out. This may work for now. It's not always going to work, but if it's working for now, cool. And remain curious. Oh, when this doesn't work, don't go into shame and failure and guilt about, this technique or strategy or approach just is no good. I'm going to toss it out and never try it again. No, it's just like, okay, so maybe I'll come back to this later, but for now it got a little stale. Let's try something else. Let's remain curious. What else can I do?
Totally. Yeah. I really think of it a lot, kind of like a playbook, again, with the sports analogy. Like when like a team comes to a game, they don't have like, all right, here's our play. Let's do our play and keep doing it because it's a good play.
The one play, it worked last time. Yeah.
Right. It's like, no, the environment is totally different. The team they're playing is different. All the conditions are different. They're going to try a play and see if it works. And if it does work, they might think like, cool, maybe let's try that again in the third quarter. Or like, hey, let's use that in a future game because that was really successful here. But they're going through all sorts of play. And there's a ton of plays that they don't touch for like weeks and weeks and weeks and wait for that one time where like, oh, this is the perfect one right here. In, football, like the first half is all about like everything you're doing is just trying to better understand your opponent so you can do your real plan in the second half. And so it's all a bunch of like tiny experiments. You're just sort of like trying out all the different things so you can learn what's working and what doesn't work.
Wait, Jesse, this is breaking my brain. This is breaking my brain. Is this in the book, Aaron? Is this metaphor in the book? Okay, good. Thank God. Yeah, so this is so good. Yeah.
So in a way, to apply the football analogy to a personal example, we're exploring ourselves. We're learning about ourselves. We're constantly growing and changing. We're not staying stagnant, right? So with curiosity, well, what worked for me? What is working for me? What works now? And then like, you're just kind of trying to figure that out, and then you're going to apply it, right? The next phase is like moving this to action. So shifting a little bit into momentum, because you mentioned momentum earlier. And I think I want to highlight that, because I think that word, that phrase, so important. We get hung up on motivation. Right. ADHDers are like, I don't feel motivated. How do I motivate myself? Forget about motivation. What we need to actually do is like, yes, all of those techniques are great that you mentioned. And I'm just saying, forget about motivation in a kind of flippant way. But I'm like, forget about motivation because we can't count on it all the time. It's not the thing that we can say we can do consistently and like count on, I'm going to be motivated, because we actually need to find a way to do things in the absence of motivation, right?
Right.
And that's where momentum comes in. So talk to us more about kind of momentum and how we can leverage momentum in the absence of motivation.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of the idea of, again, what I said, like the train, but it's really like that inertia. Like when you're not moving, the hardest thing to do is to start moving. It's, some people call it like couch lock. like when you're sitting on the couch, like
Couch
you just
lock.
stuck.
Love
you
it.
can't get into moving and then once you can get moving, then building that motivation. So it's kind of like breaking through that. And I think a lot of it is we really get focused on the task we're trying to do. Like it's a big project and we're like, how do I get anything going on this? And so like a few strategies I use to help get that momentum moving forward. One, there's kind of like the toxic productivity advice that's like eat the frog first. And for anyone that doesn't know this, the advice says like, hey, if you have to eat a frog, like you have this really ugly task you don't want to do, the advice goes, you should eat that first because then everything else will be easier the rest of your day. And I think the biggest problem with that strategy is it sounds right. Like you hear that and you're like, that makes sense. If I get through that awful task first, everything else will be easier. It'll be like, running downhill. It'll be so much. But the problem,
it is right for the importance-based motivation, but not the interest-based.
Right. Because for them, that importance comes really like key. And then they get the reward of like not having to do that for the rest of the day. Then they're getting to do like the easy tasks or whatever it is. But the problem comes for me, if I try to eat the frog first, guess what I'm going to be doing at 6, 7 o'clock that night? I'm still staring at the frog because I really don't want to eat the frog.
Because you don't fucking want to eat the frog. I don't want to.
So nothing got done. I didn't eat the frog and I didn't get anything else done either. And so to be able to eat that frog, I have to build up momentum. Like for me, it's kind of like putting a giant boulder in front of the train. Like the train's never going to be able to like push through that boulder because it's stopped. But you put that boulder like, a few miles down the track, then that train builds up the momentum. It's going to just like destroy that boulder once it's got like 100 cars behind it, all of that like power once it is moving. So for me, I say instead of eating the frog first, I say eat the ice cream first. Find the thing that is going to get you moving. And maybe it's like directly related to the project. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just something that gets you into action. And so
activation energy kind of gets you going, gets the blood flowing, gets your neurons firing.
And I'm willing to bet something for you, something that serves you, something that serves the ego, the soul. Like it's something that you feel good about. It is a reward.
Yeah, like there's a reason I say it's eating the ice cream. It's eating the thing you really want to do. It's kind of, there's the idea of like in your refrigerator, instead of putting like your cans of soda like right out in the open and then hiding your veggies in like the in the drawer or whatever, doing the opposite. Put the cans way down in there because you want that to the point where you're going to push through the friction to get to that thing. Right. Same thing with ice cream. Like my ice cream's not out in the open where I see it, but when I want ice cream, I'm going to go dig through the freezer and get it out because it's worth it to get through the friction to get to that thing that I want, to get to that ice cream.
Yeah, removing the mental friction or the environmental friction surrounding doing the thing that is the more preferred or beneficial thing that you kind of need to get to. If you just make it easier on yourself in any way you can, make it more accessible.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of like when I'm stuck on the couch, the thing I don't want to do is get up and go mow the lawn or like take out the trash. And so because of that, I'm just going to stay sitting on the couch because there's that mental friction of like getting through that to standing up and to getting that inertia actually moving. So what I do instead, like for household chores, I go to kind of that podcast thing I'd mentioned. Like I have certain podcasts that I only listen to while I'm doing chores. So what I will do is I'll say, hey, once I stand up, then I can hit play. And then at that point, I've gotten through the friction of getting up off the couch. Now I'm listening to podcasts. I'm like, well, I'm not even doing anything anyway. So I can just walk over and, busy my hands by taking out the trash while I'm getting to listen to the latest episode of something I want to listen to. Because the problem is we sit on the couch and then just beat ourselves up. You're like, why can't you get up? You have to do this thing today. It's so important. If you don't do it, there's going to be the consequences. And it's like, that's not going to help. That's not going to help. You have to find some other way to get through the friction of whatever that barrier is in front of you to get you into that forward momentum.
You just reminded me something I heard at the conference, and I swear this is related, that something I heard at the conference, the neurodivergent conference, was there was a presentation about AI, and I think you might have been in this one too.
I missed the AI one. I've heard about it, but I missed that one, yeah.
Well, the presenter was saying basically like what you should do is, because we struggle with breaking things down and sometimes planning it in a realistic way, that's a struggle. That's an executive functioning struggle for ADHDers. So she suggested, hey, just brain dump some of those tasks in a very general sense into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your preferred AI tool is, and then just be like, can you further break these down into actionable steps? And that prompt will just immediately, right, give you the first 10, 15 steps, whatever the thing is. And I thought that was so brilliant, because it kind of like, I know in your book you talk about, well, yeah, it's really hard to break things down. And that's one of those pieces of advice they give to neurotypical folks is productivity. Like, well, we'll just break it down into steps. And yeah, but we can actually use some of these AI tools to potentially like help us do that. And I really liked that. And I was thinking like that could plug in right there with that momentum. Like, how do we then move into the task, right?
Yeah, and for reference, that was Carla Starr of the Star Lab. Yeah, and she speaks on AI for ADHD, and co-working and things like that. And I agree with Aaron. It was for the very capital A artist woo-woo kind of person that I am. Sometimes sitting in an AI lecture can give me the squicky feeling, right? But I will 10 out of 10 endorse Carla's lecture and her ideas around this. It is the exact amalgam of playful and serious and creative and but also doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, she's very silly and she understands that this is not the solution to things. This adds, as we've been discussing here, new novelty, AI-based novelty. This gives us fantastic new ways to look at a to-do list, right? Or to look at our this big disorganized library in our office, right? I highly recommend Carla Starr and the Star Lab stuff.
Yeah. So two things. First, the problem with neurodiversion is they had way too many good talks, and then a lot of them were happening at the same time. And so I felt like
it's true.
There's like 3 talks happening, and I wanted to see them all. So hopefully some of those got recorded, so I can go back and see some of those. But yeah, totally. I know a friend of mine, Marie Ng. She has a productivity app for people with ADHD called Llama Life, and one of the things it has built in where you can put tasks and you can break it down, like break this into like the different tasks that it actually needs to be done. Another thing with like AI, I know someone took my kind of idea with the 4 C's, based on William Dodson's idea with interface nervous system, put that into ChatGPT to help them come up with like, hey, here's this task I'm struggling to get started on. How can I use the 4 C's to get started? Which is like so cool. They're able to use that.
And apply the 4 C's to this task. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And that really helped them. And I think that is a super awesome way to kind of help you get through that barrier and get stuff going. So I think there's some amazing tools if you're really creative about how to use them and how they can help you out.
Yeah. And I also would like to remind people, because this is something I talk to my coaching clients about, and I don't know if you talk to your clients about this at all, Jesse, but I like to remind them, it's not about the outcome or the end thing, right? It's not about like, I have to plan it all or break it down from step 1 to 100 to done.
Totally.
No, we don't have to do that. Like, honestly, getting started just to overcome that initial barrier, it's really about overcoming that first 15 to 20 minutes of doing it, right? Just getting yourself going. So building that momentum up.
Yep.
So if we don't even have to go the whole thing. So just work with ChatGPT or get some suggestions and kind of get yourself moving through this thing. And then all of a sudden that momentum will take over. And before you know it, you've made some progress.
Yeah, totally. Like that's one of the strategies in my book talks about that. The idea of like, don't feel like you need to break out a project into its entirety. Just break out the first couple of steps to get yourself going. Because again, once you have that momentum, once that like momentum train is going down the track, it becomes much easier to figure out what's the next thing I should work on. What can I tackle next? Like you can figure that out along the way. And this is something I've definitely I love to spend a whole weekend building what I think is going to be the perfect productivity system that's going to account for every possibility and like have every caveat. And then like by Wednesday, I'm like, it's kind of a lot of work and don't use it anymore. So like I'm the king of like trying to make it perfect before using it. And that's really like not the approach we should take. It's all about just like get yourself going.
Oh, I struggle with we got to get a name for it, like the prep perfection.
Perfectionism?
Well, it is perfectionism, but it's a specific stage of it that Jesse's underlining. It's because Aaron, to put it in other words, like we as a company, we're trying all kinds of tools, and like Notion will come up or Claude or whatever. I totally pick up what Jesse's putting down. Sometimes I get trapped in the perfectionist prep, meaning like I can't even build the tool because I want the tool to be perfect, when in reality, there's a little, and I'm endorsing the tiniest bit of this, but the tiniest bit of move fast and break things. I do not like the overall philosophy, but the tiniest bit of that for ADHDers can be helpful. Like it doesn't need to be perfect, like just start somewhere.
Yeah, a phrase that I've been really telling myself lately is just like start messy and keep going, which is counter to my nature. But that really, like the things that have worked well for me is when I dove in there and I started doing it, started trying it out, didn't know all the rules, didn't know how it was going to work in every situation, but just keep going and evolve from there. And that's really kind of like the approach that has worked well for me, which it just feels counter. And maybe part of it is like, I don't know, maybe like, lower T trauma that I'm like, I'm trying to avoid someone finding the flaws in how I'm doing stuff. So I'm trying to make it perfect before I do anything. Yeah. But the reality is I just need to kind of dive in there and then just keep going and figure it out kind of along the way. And that's going to work better for me.
I need to say one sentence because you inspired it, baby. It's counter to our ego, but it is not counter to our nature. I find that what you're saying is my nature is to jump right the heck into things that people said you have no authority being in here. And then I was quite good at it, right? I find that's an experience that I've had is I learn very quickly. I adapt very quickly. That is in line with, it's actually in line with our nature to start messy and figure shit out on the fly, but it is counter to our ego and our sense of self.
Yeah, 100%. You nailed it there. Cause I said my nature, but you're right. Same thing like that. The problem is I used to do that and I would get in trouble for it. So I've like learned.
That's the trauma. That's the little trauma. Yeah.
Right. I've like learned that, don't do it like that. You have to figure it all out beforehand because people are going to find and point out the flaws. And so I'm trying to solve it. And it just never actually, it's impossible. Because the other thing that I always remind myself, I work in like software development. And so something that's said in that world kind of a lot is like this problem that we're trying to solve right here, we'll never know less about it than we do right now. Like going forward, we're just going to continue to learn more about this problem and be able to solve it better. Because every day is just going to bring continued learnings. And so that's something I really apply to a lot of my life. Like,
love that.
This problem, I feel like I know a lot about it, but tomorrow I'm going to know more about it. Like I'm going to continue to learn going forward. And so don't feel like you're going to solve it all right now because you don't have all the information right now. Just get in there and get going and you can figure stuff out along the way.
Amen. No notes.
Get out of your own way.
Right? Oh, bringing it all the way back. Yeah, this was awesome, Jesse. Thank you so much for being with us today. The listeners will hear, I think, that soupçon of magic that we get at Neurodiversion and the ADHD conference. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of felt like we did that beautiful circular and linear simultaneously. I felt like we were working through your life journey. Aaron was doing fantastic, keeping us back on task. And then we had this ability to like philosophize and share some allegories and anecdotes. And I'm just surprised by our ability to have covered all the big questions, the big topics. Kudos, you guys. This was such a rich conversation.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me here to chat with you guys. This is great. Like I said, Aaron just a few days ago, like, hey, we should talk. I think it'd be great. And lo and behold, we already had it on the schedule.
I love it. Of course, Aaron, who is this lighthouse in my life too. Jesse was like, yeah, we have it on the calendar. Oh, right. Oh my God. Yay. Yeah. Serendipity. Okay. So give us your pluggables, Jesse. We gave you a little intro. Tell us where the people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the book. We talked about a bunch, Extra Focus, the quick start guide to adult ADHD. You can get it at extrafocusbook.com, but it's also on Amazon and everywhere else. And then I have my newsletter where I write weekly about ADHD and of all of this sort of stuff. And that's at extrafocus.com. So Extra Focus is kind of the name that everywhere is for me. And then I make silly jokes about ADHD online on all the socials as ADHD Jesse.
Excellent.
So follow, and subscribe. ADHD Jesse.
I'm just so delighted. This all went so wonderfully.
Yeah, we're just so happy to have you part of the community and to know you and to keep hanging out whenever we cross paths, and hopefully we'll keep doing more of that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, for the people listening exclusively, I'm going to use this as a shameless plug and give a compliment to Jesse. Jesse's eyes are so kind and wise. I mean, like, just to stare into Jesse's eyes, that's something that I'm struck by when I first see you after a while. Is like, wow, this guy's eyes, you can get lost in Jesse's eyes. So jump onto the Attention Different YouTube channel and watch this podcast episode, because he is lit so well for this interview. And it's giving wisdom and grace. Yeah.
If you want to see this interview, go to YouTube /Attention Different, and you'll find all the episodes there.
This was awesome. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, when we get to dig into it a little deeper.